Hello. Here I go. We are ready to continue. Are you refreshed? Here we go. First one. Hi, Abraham. I ended my marriage of almost 10 years last October. The straw that broke the camel's back was his infidelity. I'm at peace with the decision I made to no longer be with this man. I wish I could totally disassociate myself from him, but I still maintain a link because 3 years ago I loaned him a good amount of money. He never returned it to me or shows any intention to do so. Every time I ask him to return it, he tells me that he has no money, but I found out that he goes out to expensive restaurants, travels, and spends on valuable paintings, for example. I have a loan contract signed by him. I've not wanted to go to a lawyer to enforce it because I don't like confrontation. But something inside of me tells me to proceed to sue him. Is this okay? Well, there's no right or wrong. We're not going to say to you, yes, do this, or no, don't do that. But we do want to chew this over with you a little bit. Think about some of what we were talking about before segment of refreshment. About people seeking to control others. And so this lawsuit seems to you like it would be a way that you could get others to side with you. And in doing so, control the behavior of someone to get him to do something that he so far hasn't done and doesn't seem to want to do. So we want to talk just briefly about the futility of that and how joining a stream of consciousness of pushing against or trying to force someone to do something that they don't want to do, or even that they've decided that they're not going to do, is not a satisfying experience ever. Thinking more deeply about the relationship, what we heard you say when you said the straw that broke the camel's back was him not keeping a promise that he had made to you, a promise that you made to him and that he made to you and that you thought that he should keep. And so you already know that he is someone who doesn't make a promise and keep it. And so the fact that he signed papers about this loan doesn't give you any reassurance. And even if you could get the courts to enforce it, in other words, what you're saying here, and a lot of people think this way, is if we could just make the consequences so terrible that it's the path of least resistance to do what I think he should do, well, really, isn't that a big price to pay? In other words, we've talked recently about the futility of you moving through the world, holding a sign that says, these are the things that I need from you and you and you and you and you in order for me to feel good, and how ridiculous that would be because, first of all, it's too much and too many people to read the sign, and people not being born to read your sign and do what you want them or need them to do. It's your job to find a vibration that allows what you want in. And so this long way of explaining this is our way of saying to you that it really never is a good idea to get yourself in a place where you believe that you can make people, or that you even want to make people do things that they don't want to do. The law of attraction really says, I found this vibration that feels good to me, and the law of attraction will bring others to me and other experiences to me that match that. And so we want to get sort of bold and blunt by saying, do you really want somebody to be with you who doesn't want to be with you? No. Do you really want somebody to do something with you that they really don't want to do? And maybe you say yes when you have a scant view of how it all works, but when you know how it works, and you know that the universe will bring to you whatever you are a vibrational match to, then doesn't it put you in a better position to let everyone off the hook and not need their behavior in order for you to feel good? You just identify what you want, line up with what you want, offer vibrations about what you want, let it be an inside job, and then let the cooperative components come to you. Let the cooperative components come to you. Let the cooperative components come to you. A lawsuit is trying to get uncooperative components to come to you. Holding people to you in vows or rules or requirements or promises often is trying to keep uncooperative people close to you. And it really defies the laws of the universe. You don't want uncooperative. What you begin to discover as you look a little deeper into all of this is that there is the potential for much more cooperation than any of you are eliciting from one another, because you're so busy demanding things from each other that you don't evoke your cooperative components. And so, but you could. And so we're sure that you've gathered from us that we would not have the knee-jerk reaction of suing. We would not think it was worth us giving up our connection in order to do it. It's a big topic, isn't it? Next one. I was diagnosed with depression as a teenager, and I've had many serious dark cloud days. I'm currently 52 and would like to be done with this low vibrational level of suffering. Can I stop being depressed? Yes, just not all at once. Can I heal so completely that medical doctors no longer find any sign of depression in me? Absolutely. Can I make it so that the fuel gauge on my car never gets close to empty again? Yeah, keep putting fuel in your car. Don't let it get empty. Fill it up before it gets empty. Keep it more than half full all the time. And you'll never have to endure the discomfort of that again. That sounds like a silly analogy, but we mean it literally. You have to replenish yourself with thoughts that allow your connection to your replenishment. It really is that simple. Simple in concept and logical if you've been listening to us and understanding us for a little while. But it does take some practice. It does take understanding what depression is. Depression is me thinking thoughts that my inner being don't think, and doing it so often that I've got habits of thought. And then those habit of thoughts keep attracting circumstances that make me push against more things. So I bounce around from depression to anger, revenge, hatred, jealousy. Now, you're resisting that. You don't think that those are your feelings. You're saying it's just depression. Well, that means somebody's trained you early on to believe that everything's your fault, and so you turn it right back on yourself. But it doesn't matter what the not good feeling emotion is. It always is the same thing and for the same reason. You're departing from thoughts that your inner being is thinking about the same thing in the same moment in time. Take it easy. I was diagnosed as a teenager. That's a long time ago. I had an incident recently on a flight from Texas to California. The flight was delayed several hours, and we flew to and from one city 3 times. This turned a usual 3-hour flight into an 18-hour day. We weren't getting any information from the pilot, so I decided to call the airline customer service. A young man 2 seats over on the aisle overheard my call, and it made him very upset. He interrupted me and said, "We are all in the same situation and you don't need to complain." He was pretty aggressive, and I was very confrontational. After the exchange, I apologized to him for barking back, and he calmed down as well. I was overwhelmed and started to tear up. It was a very emotional exchange for me, as I don't like confrontation. And I was more upset with myself for stooping to his level, so to speak, and operating from the bottom half of the emotional scale when I know better. I don't know if I was just tired. You were. Hot on the plane. You were. Hungry. You were. And that made me respond that way. It contributed, certainly. But nonetheless, it was very upsetting. I kept replaying the situation in my mind, and it took me days to get over it. I was pretty ashamed of my behavior, and I want to make sure that I never do that again. A tough lesson to learn, and I'd like to be easier with myself when I have setbacks like that. Your thoughts would be very much appreciated. Most important, we wouldn't call it a setback. We would call it a contrasting experience that launched a rocket of desire that put you forward. You're not set back by that. You have clearer intention than you've ever had before. Our friend, who we were just reading about, who was diagnosed with depression as a teenager and now is 52. It's these kinds of experiences, recognizing that you don't like feeling that way, that cause you to launch those rockets of desire, and more important, to do something about it. You said so many things that are important here, but for those of you who are listening in, isn't it clear to you that this is a person who likes to feel good and who usually does? And isn't it also logical that even a person like that could find yourself in a situation where there's something going on that you don't understand that you want to understand? And is it really wrong when people who could be giving you information but for some reason are choosing not to? Isn't it logical that you might reach out to someone who could give you some information? And is really that such a terrible thing? Weren't you reaching for soothing? Isn't that what you were doing? But you were reaching for soothing, as you almost always are, from the bottom half of the scale. And that's the thing that's tricky about soothing, isn't it? You reached for it from the bottom half of the scale and attracted something else that was from the bottom half of the scale. Another person as worried, really fearful, and aggravated as you are, then came after you like sort of like a menacing dog in our last week's discussion. And so, if we were standing in your physical shoes, what we would most want to do is be easier on ourselves. Don't get, judgmental about your behavior. Try to soothe yourself. Try to soothe yourself. In other words, it's logical that you would want information. Doesn't that soothe you? It's logical that this person was barking at you because this person was worried too. Doesn't that soothe you? And most of all, you launched rockets of desire. And what is the rocket of desire? Is the rocket of desire, I'll never be in a situation I don't understand again? That's not the rocket. Is the rocket of desire, I will never sit across from aggravated people across the aisle from me. That's not the rocket of desire. The rocket of desire is, I'll be aware of how I feel and I will catch my emotions earlier. There's nothing wrong with asking for information. We don't think that this was a terrible thing that happened. We don't think this is something that you need to take days to get over. We don't think it's something that you should be hard about yourself at all. Because if it is something that you should be hard on yourself about, then here, we'll give you some more things that you should be hard on yourself. You made a decision to be born into an environment with contrast. What's up with that? Why would you do something so foolish? Well, it was very logical to you. You knew that the contrast would help you to launch rockets of desire. So you knew that then. We want you to remember that now. Why weren't you born into an environment where everybody was at the same time exactly on the same page with you? Why didn't you poll everybody and make sure that everybody who got on the airplane was up to speed? Why don't the airlines do that? Why don't they hold up signs that say, you need to behave this way and this way and this way and this way and this way? Instead of a COVID test, why don't they, which they're not doing, why don't they give you an emotional test? In the last 12 hours, have you had symptoms of anger or depression? There would rarely be anyone who gets on their airplane. We think you're being far too hard on yourself. You have a guidance system that is working extremely well. And certainly after the fact, we'd be looking for ways to soothe yourself in regards to your behavior, and the other man, the other person, in regards to his behavior. Abraham, why do kids suck their thumb? It's comforting. It's a way of withdrawing from something upsetting and turning to something not upsetting. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Oh, we may have opened a door that now we have to walk into and follow through with you about. So, something unsettling is happening that is causing this new one on the planet to not feel so good. So, found a way of self-soothing, a way that felt familiar because that sucking was an early experience, brought comfort, was intuitive, felt good. There's a visceral memory of that sucking, soothing, not so different from listening to a sound in the air conditioner, something that quiets the mind, withdrawing attention from whatever is troubling and giving attention to something that is soothing. But then others around who have decided that you don't want to start that, and they don't realize the bigness of what they're saying, but what they're actually saying is, you don't want to soothe yourself. You need to cope in this world, so stop sucking that thumb. Jerry talked about he sucked his thumb so much that his mother put a little tin cup on his little hand and put tape around it so that he couldn't suck his thumb. That's how determined she was to prevent this terrible behavior of not enduring the injustices that were surrounding him. We know. Here we are, all these years later in your life. And when you think about it, friends, this is a big thing that we're going to say to you right now. We teach self-soothing. That's all we teach. We teach creating from the inside out. We teach aligning to the power from within you to the clarity and well-being that is yours. We don't teach jumping through hoops to please others. And some of you are having some experiences where your self-soothing is annoying those around you because they would rather you soothe them. So you find ways of self-soothing that aren't so overtly in their face. But what it comes round to is that if you're not clear enough and sure enough about the value and goodness of you feeling good, then you don't have access to any guidance, because those around you are fickle and they offer so many different things. You can't use what they say as guidance for you. So if you have a child in your life sucking his thumb, understand that self-soothing and look with a smile and feel love in your heart while you look. This is someone wise. And then add to that soothing with your appreciation and your love. And by doing that, you will surround his atmosphere with more of what he's looking for, and he may find the sucking of the thumb not necessary. But if you condemn it, if you forbid it, you add to the very consternation and aggravation that is causing the desire to suck the thumb to begin with. Does that make sense? You just can't get there from there. Meanness is not going to make the world more loving. And anger is not going to make the world feel better. It's only love, connection to that perpetuates love. Hatred does not perpetuate love, but hatred does perpetuate a desire for love, and insecurity does perpetuate a desire for security. And so it all fits together nicely once you understand it, yes? My son expresses that he wants to stop. Say to him, "You don't have to stop, sweetheart. If it makes you feel better, it's all right. If it makes you feel better, I'm for it. I'm for you feeling better." And then say to your son, "I find lots of ways to feel better. It might look sort of silly for Mommy to be sucking her thumb. What do you think? What do you think? But I still look for ways to feel better. I look for ways to feel better and find them. How about you keep an eye on me, and you'll see some of the ways that I've found to feel better. And I'll keep an eye on you, and I'll notice the ways that you find to feel better. Because one thing I know for sure, it's good when we feel better." That's the way we would approach that. Next one. I would very much appreciate it if you could elaborate on when to take pleasure from the idea, hold the thrill of the vision, and when to relax and let it go. It's a really important question, because it must sound to you a little bit like we are schizophrenic in what we are teaching you when we say things like make statements of desire and write down what you want and even script about it. And at other times we say, let it go and allow the universe to bring to you what you want. But the way you know which behavior will be of greatest value to you is when you are on the upper half of the emotional scale, when you're feeling contentment or hopefulness or optimism or positive expectation or enthusiasm or passion or joy, knowledge, those good feelings, then turn up the gas and give it your undivided attention for the pleasure in it. But if you are overwhelmed or frustrated or disappointed or worried about it, then let it go. Your emotions are your guide about when to give anything attention and when to withdraw your attention from anything, yes? How can I align myself? Next one. How can I align myself while still acknowledging the horror in the world today? Well, there's a difference between acknowledging it and looking at an extreme pocket of it. You go on brilliantly. I have the privilege to have the tools and the freedom to do so. Now, we know what you mean with that. You mean that you can withdraw yourself from horrible things. You can pull yourself out of an environment and move yourself to a more pleasing environment. We know what you mean. You have the privilege and the wherewithal to control more of the conditions of your life experience so that you don't have to endure them. But we want you to hear something even more in that statement. You said, I have the privilege. We want you to say, I have the knowledge. You said tools, which implies knowledge. I have the tools. So when you look into a world and you see something that's upsetting to you, the first thing you must do is self-soothe, or you have nothing to give. And the fastest way to do that is to step back from it, which you're doing with your privilege, so to speak, but to step back from the details of it in order to find alignment. And sometimes you have to step so far back that you quiet your mind altogether. And when you quiet your mind, then you will come into the fullness of connection with your inner being. Esther self-soothes often, not by sucking her thumb. She does this a lot, though. She fidgets with her thumb a lot, draws attention to something other than what she's thinking about. But Esther self-soothes often by seeing events as rare, looking at them in the context of the whole or the bigger, understanding that non-physical exists, and and understanding that no matter what, non-physical is always there, and that there is always the option of withdrawing into the non-physical, which is the ultimate soothing. While there are those who struggle with basic needs, I have the privilege and the tools, to have tools and the freedom to do so. Is it not selfish, you go on, not to acknowledge that there are those that will never have the freedom to reach for higher consciousness? It's not only not selfish, it's not what your inner being knows. That's a contradiction to what your inner being knows. There is no one who exists on your planet who does not have the freedom to reach for higher consciousness. Is it more difficult in some situations than others? Certainly. We just visited with a friend who uncharacteristically, by her standards, really misbehaved on an airplane. Uncharacteristically. We know what you're getting at. But you have to find a way to acknowledge the perfection of the balance of the planet and the equal opportunity for all to exercise their freedom to choose the thought that they're thinking and to find alignment. Esther watched a very talented man the other day who came to help her at her house. He was doing some painting, high on a ladder, in a precarious position, and in her mind, she thought he is a genius because what he was accomplishing, she was told, could not be accomplished. That part of the house is going to have to be restuccoed. The paint will never look right. But he made it look right. Took a lot of care to do it. And then Esther was visiting with him and feeling such appreciation for not just his talent and not just his effort, but the joy with which he offered it. And she watched him as she watched him appreciating the fish in the pond, and as he was breathing the deliciousness of the air. And then he said something out loud about his appreciation for what he was looking at. And Esther said to him, "You are an appreciator, aren't you?" And he said, "There is so much to appreciate." And Esther thought, consciously, how he has discovered how to stay happy in his moments. She felt no need to compare the fact that he was high on a ladder and pushing his body past limits that Esther would be willing to do. None of that was relevant. The only thing was relevant was what he was doing and how he was feeling about it, and what Esther was doing and how she was feeling about it. There are people doing things and living in life experiences that you don't want to live, who are actually moment to moment in better connection with their inner being than you may be. You just don't know that. Do not assume that because they are not living as you want to live, that they are not finding in their life experience happiness that they are reaching for. This is a flawed premise. The first time we had this conversation with Esther over something just about like this, she was in an airport. And the family across the way, a father and a mother and a son and a daughter, were sitting feet from her. And there was not a particle of obvious joy emanating from any of them. And as Esther noticed them, at this almost the same moment she looked down, and there was a magazine sitting next to her on the table, a Newsweek magazine, and it had a picture of a family that could have been them. They didn't look the same, but father, mother, son and daughter, all about the same ages of those sitting in front of her. And these people were fleeing from bombs that were going off behind them. The cameraman caught it all, the explosions and the people who were running with definiteness of purpose in the direction of the cameraman and away from the danger. And a thought occurred to Esther in such a pronounced way in that moment. I would rather be these people with definiteness of purpose, headed in the direction of something more wanted, than these people sitting here with no obvious sign of life flowing through them. And the conversation that we had with Esther following that went on for days, as Esther was doing what you're doing here, trying to find how she fit in to a world of such diversity. Esther remembers the day that Tracy picked up her new little red Acura that she figured out how to pay for. She figured out where to find it. Even though she wanted help from Jerry and Esther, they left her to her own, and she figured it out and did it. And now days later, she is back in her apartment, calling her mother. She's crying. "What's wrong?" Esther said. "Mom, I saw a man in my apartment complex looking for food in the dumpster. And right on the other side of the parking lot is my new red Acura. He's eating out of a dumpster, and I have a new red Acura." And Esther said, "If you didn't have it, do you think he would not be making those choices? Do you think you're choosing not to allow well-being and abundance into your experience would leave more of it for others? That's not how the universe works. There's not a finite pie that you're all squabbling over and fighting over and sharing. You getting a piece of it does not deprive someone else of it. It's there for everyone. We will acknowledge with you that it is more difficult for some than others. Jerry had a mother who did not understand, who was so lower half of the chart that she taped her little boy's hands in tin cups so that he could not suck his thumb. She demanded and demanded and demanded of him until he launched rockets of desire and freedom beyond what most will ever want, and then found it, found the freedom to understand. So we know that you are an uplifter and that you want to be of value to others. But deprivation of your own well-being does not teach well-being, it teaches deprivation. You can't get sick enough to help sick people get well, or poor enough to help poor people become abundant, or confused enough to bring clarity to anyone. It's through your connection to your own resources that you demonstrate that those resources exist. And then when someone up close who really wants to know asks you, tell them what you know. Next one. Abraham, I've been experiencing contrast for so long to the point that I almost lost hope that my desires would ever happen. I'm constantly reminded how my desires have been unfulfilled. I love my family, but their concerns about how I should be living my life paralyzes me. In the past, there have been times I completely followed the path of least resistance and have enjoyed life a lot. However, the fears of my family and friends got the better of me, and I failed miserably. For such a long time, I've been living a life that's not in alignment with my desires. I get kicked out of the vortex, so to speak. Now I'm scared to try again, and I don't know where to start. How can I realign myself and start all over? This entire day is information for you, dear heart. That's what all of this lineup of questions has been about. It's for you to understand. It's for you to understand that you never get so far from your connection to Source that you cannot find it. And you can never pinch yourself off from it and feel the fulfillment that you feel when you're in alignment with it. This is an inside job, but you understand what to do. Don't let the fear of others, don't let concerns of others, don't let the misguided information from those who are not connected to the stream of well-being, don't let that be what you calibrate to and that what you respond from. You know what to do. Everything in what you wrote to us makes us know that you know what to do. Maybe these conversations here today are oriented a bit toward the many of you who are writing to us, who say, I want to understand this and I want my life to be better, but so far I haven't really got the hang of it. There's a lot of you writing that way. There are a lot of you writing to say, I didn't understand it, but I do now, and life is getting better. There are many of you who are writing to say, I didn't understand it, I observed it. You made me realize I have a vortex full of things I want. I didn't really believe you, but I gave it a little bit of a go. I tried to feel better, and I got hold of the tail of something, and life got better and better. There's no right or wrong way to approach this. It's all up to you. We're just saying to you that no matter how far you are from what you want, there is nothing that you cannot be or do or have. There is a path, a logical path that will lead you to it, but you must care about the way you feel enough to find that path. You cannot stand in deprivation of joy or deprivation of love. You cannot stand in a place of hatred and meanness and pushing against. You cannot abide in the vibration of insecurity and find the security that you want. You cannot get there from there. And that is why you go to sleep. That is why you detach from your point of momentum of attraction. Use slumber as your friend, because it slows momentum of unwanted things. Pay attention to your emotions, for they are guidance about your alignment or lack of it. And then get up another day and give it another go. It is our promise to you. You cannot possibly listen to us as you are, even in these 2 hours that we are together today, and not understand from the very depth of your being how this universe works, because there is not a shred of evidence to the contrary of it anywhere around you. I'm a realtor, and I often work with clients who follow your teachings. Sometimes I struggle when my clients set a listing price that's higher than what the market currently supports. If the house doesn't sell quickly or doesn't sell for the price my clients want, sometimes they say it's because of my consciousness. Some of them have said that they believe that I am blocking the outcome that they want. Well, anyone that says that to you doesn't understand what we are teaching, because they're blaming you for their own point of attraction. You don't want to say that too abruptly back to them, but there are many factors we want to say to you beyond the price of a house that are the reason that someone is drawn to it or repelled by it. We think that you are putting too much of a factor on the price, and we understand why you would do it. And not enough understanding of the vibrational point of attraction. In this case, in the example that you've offered here, you are equal to your client, and your client is equal to you, in that neither one of you are really understanding that you create your own reality, not right now in this way. There are those who, for reasons that you may not even know, would pay double your price, for reasons that you may never know. And there are those who wouldn't take it if you gave it to them, for reasons that you don't even know. We've been saying to you all for quite a while, if you can take money out of the equation, and we know that sounds crazy in a place that is a marketplace, to take money out of the equation. So let us say it a little softer. Put it in the background while you bring to the foreground how you feel. We think it is nice that your clients have attracted you and that you have attracted them, so that you all can work this out together and come to understand the way the laws of the universe work. Story that Jerry and Esther carried around for years speaks to this. A woman had a jewelry store, mostly turquoise jewelry and silver, some other items. And now it was time for her to leave her shop. Her shop was in a hotel gift shop. she left someone else in charge while she went to a faraway city to select more items to bring back to the shop. And when at the shop alone, getting ready to lock up, she left a note for the girl who would be watching the shop for the days that she was gone. And her note said, discount these items by 1/2. But it didn't say discount. It said these items / 1/2. When she came back, almost every item was sold. She was glad that she had brought more to replace the nearly empty cases. And she said to her friend, the woman who had watched the shop, I guess discounting them by 1/2 did the trick. And the woman was surprised and for a moment embarrassed and said, that's not what I thought your note said. I doubled the price. She doubled the price and they all sold. Because there are people who believe that the price equals the value. And the higher the price, the greater the value. This must be really good stuff. It's really expensive. Next one. My question is about dreams. I have quite an amazing life, and it gets better and better. I'm creating slowly but steadily. Even if I have a lot of chaos and bumps in my road, I've learned to relax. I live a relaxed life. But now in my dreams, I experience the same feeling of pressure and hurry. I'm trying to catch a plane or a ship, feeling the pressure of being late, having forgotten something. These dreams come so often that I ask myself, is there an important message to me? Yes, a few messages. It's important to understand that your dreams are manifestations, and they are manifestations that, like manifestations of things that manifest into your experience that are tangible, like the tangible things that come to you, the dream state things that come to you are always a vibrational match to what's going on in your vibration. A dream often can give you information that you're hiding from yourself in real life, hiding from yourself through distractions or through living things that you don't really want to live, so you're not owning where you stand. If we were in your physical shoes and we awakened from a dream such as this, what we would say to ourselves is, I'm not as relaxed as I think I am. There must be an undercurrent of tension that I'm not acknowledging, which was evidenced in the 2 paragraphs that you wrote. You said, even though I have chaos in my life, I live a relaxed life. Your dream says otherwise. So, what to do when you are aware that you are not as relaxed as you want to be? Give more emphasis to things that you feel relaxed about and less emphasis to things that you don't feel so relaxed about. More self-soothing. When you don't feel relaxed, soothe yourself. More self-soothing. Friends, there have been so many people in your life who have said to us, you've got to face reality, as if wanting something more than what is inappropriate. They've forgotten that it's always evolving. They're not remembering, and they're certainly not a vibrational match to their inner being who always does remember. Sometimes you say, why didn't I remember this stuff? Why would I come into this body and not remember? If you came back with a memory of everything that you lived before, you would be full of the resistance things. But this way, you reemerge into non-physical. It's a lovely clearing field. Talk about a wonderful recycling project. And you leave behind all doubts and fears and things that you're worried about. You reconnect with everything that works. You replenish yourself completely, and then you reemerge again to explore contrast in order to launch new personal desires. It's such a wonderful unfolding of life. So we like, you say, I live an amazing life. Yes, you do. That gets better and better. Yes, it is. And then you said, but it's got chaos and bumps. And we say, out of the chaos comes clarity when you focus. And out of the chaos comes more. So you don't want to discard or eliminate chaos for a smooth ride. You just want to learn to navigate it and to develop some shock absorbers so that you can have a nice life. That's those tools our earlier friend was talking about. Anyway, you say, we're not asking you to put up with stuff that doesn't feel good and pretend like it feels good. We're asking you to look for things that do feel good, to orient yourself there, to hold yourself in longer patterns of positive attraction so that more momentum can bring more to you, so that you can feel more deliberate application of your understanding of how all of this works. A deliberate creator wants to create on purpose. You really don't want, as a sculptor, to take that big clump of clay and just throw it down and be done with it. Oh, that didn't turn out very well, you say. That didn't turn out very well. You want to get your hands in that clay, and you want to mold it to the image that you have in your mind. And that's what you said when you decided to come into this experience. All of me in this clay of life experience, molding it into that which is pleasing to me, to that which is uplifting to me and to others. Abraham, I would like some fine-tuning on a subject. The little ones, who seem very connected to Source, seem to throw temper tantrums and fits when they don't easily get what they want. Well, what you're witnessing there is someone who wants something a lot, and in that moment does not think they're going to get it. If you sort of want something and somebody takes it away from you, you sort of want it, sort of don't get it, you sort of don't care. But if you really, really, really want something and you believe you really, really can't have it, then we think a temper tantrum might be in order. Don't you really? Doesn't it indicate the power of your desire? It also indicates the power of your resistance and the power of your not letting it in. But there's nothing wrong with realizing that you really, really want something. We're going to say something to you that many of you are wanting to understand. We've never seen such a tantrum thrown by the inhabitants of your planet as you're throwing today. You're just throwing tantrums all over the place and demanding of others that they somehow soothe you, which is just going to cause you to throw more and more tantrums because that's not how it works. But those of you, you said the little ones throw the tantrums, but as an adult, I feel like I want to throw myself on the floor and scream and shout like they do, but I don't because I've been trained not to do that. Maybe because you've been trained not to do that, and maybe because you've found other ways. Maybe because you've found logic and understanding. Maybe because you've begun to notice that things work out better for you when you feel better. Maybe it's a combination of a lot of those things. Some of you, you want it, you don't allow it. But your desire doesn't go away, so you continue to want it, but you don't allow it. Because you've got contradictory thoughts that you learned from others. So you want it, but you don't allow it. And remember, the law of attraction is causing both ends of that stick to gather momentum. The wanted is gathering momentum. The unwanted is gathering momentum. There's a temper tantrum in the making. You get to decide how much you want something and how much you don't allow it. So every day, all day, you get to live this combination of wanting and allowing, or wanting and disallowing. Some of you let it get really, really strong, so strong that then you get clear about it. So you've had a sort of bumpy ride along the way. Some of you want it and allow it, and want it and allow it. If you're one who wants it and allows it, you never really feel the exaggerated desire building up, do you? You want it and allow it, and you want it and allow it. So while life is calm and relaxed for you, you don't feel the juices really flowing. We've been teasing you sometimes by saying we think you like the drama of it, and we know you do. You like the juices flowing of really wanting something and then letting it in. Sometimes that's what you've got going on. And really, most of you do some of all of it. Sometimes you throw a temper tantrum, and sometimes you just want it and allow it. And all day, every day, you get to decide which kind of day that's going to be, or which kind of moment that's going to be. We think that's a nice way to live life. As a planet, as inhabitants of the planet, you've been depriving yourself of the ease of life. So you attracted a pandemic that shut everything down for a while and gave you some new ways of looking at things that have, for the rest of this lifetime, changed the way you're looking at your work habits, at your struggle versus ease, relativity. A really good thing to decide would help you a lot in terms of helping you to feel more positive emotion, all the way from exhilaration to contentment. Something that would help you a lot is to just make the simple decision and then do your best to keep that honor, to that promise to yourself, honoring the decision to yourself. I care about the way I feel. I want to feel good. I am a lover, and I will love. And I'm an appreciator, and I will appreciate. And when you catch yourself doing something less than that, notice it and do something about that. Can you remind me why I want to be here in this physical body? Wouldn't it be more fun to be observing things from a place of pure positive energy? My life has not taken off the way I wanted it to, and for years, what has felt like inspired action hasn't led anywhere. Despite moments of joy and even bliss, overall I feel bored and underwhelmed by the human experience. Wouldn't greater joy and bliss be found in the experience of non-physical? The greatest joy and bliss that your non-physical inner being feels is when you are joining your inner being in that. In the understanding of we're all in this together. Then you go on. If this is all life is, why did I want to be here? And why should I want to stay now? Been talking to you all day. We know you heard some stuff. Now we're going to read the final note for today, which we put in tandem with your note for a reason. Thank you to Esther and Jerry and Abraham and all of the Abraham Hicks publications folks for the remarkable gift of weekly workshops from home. Definitely feels like the energy and the wisdom continues to ramp up each week. I've been noticing how extraordinary my life has become since I've been taking photographs in the woods every day for the last year and a half. I bought a 60x zoom camera last July, and it revolutionized my ability to appreciate nature. I see one amazing butterfly, bird, turtle, dragonfly, deer after another, sometimes several at a time. The park I frequent has claimed 150 birds observed there, and I've added 4 new ones with my pictures this year. I love that Abraham's been talking about our potential to have one delicious experience after another when we're in alignment. But I notice that I haven't felt equal joy in my connection to people. Things that have been good, I'm so glad to reconnect about the pandemic, but they haven't felt extraordinary like my connections to the critters. So I started thinking about what the difference might be. And I realized that every day when I go to the woods, I ask my inner being to show me the wonders that are available so that I can photograph them. And after I encounter them, I say, thank you, I love you, and I am loved. But I don't do the same thing when I go to meet people. Wow. So we think our friend in this last letter has figured it all out. She is looking with specific intent, with a magnified lens for the beauty of the critters and finding it. But most people don't look with a magnified lens of alignment at the people who surround you, who are beautiful in all of the ways that they are. That is the reason that we would want to remain in our physical body. We would be devouring the beauty through our 60 times lens, yes, and through our exaggerated, deliberately asked for, deliberately calibrated to connection to source energy, who is looking at what you're living through a magnified lens, so drastically magnified that we can't even speak to the equivalency of it in your physical form. But your emotions are the key to that. We have devoured every word of everything that you've written. We are appreciating everything that you are writing and feeling and understanding. We're happy that we are all in this together with you. There is great love here for you. And for now, we are complete.